I moved into this neighborhood 3 years ago, thinking it would finally be the quiet place I'd been searching for. The lawns were always freshly mowed, the houses painted in matching neutral tones, and the streets were lined with those picturesque oak trees you see in real estate brochures. It looked peaceful, almost too peaceful, the kind of neighborhood where you expect friendly waves, bake sales, and families walking dogs in the evening. But what I didn't know was that behind that perfect facade sat an HOA board run by people who treated a neighborhood like their personal kingdom. And at the top of that little throne was one woman, the HOA president, who everyone called Karen. At first, she seemed polite enough. She brought over a welcome basket the week I moved in. Homemade cookies, a copy of the HOA rules, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She pointed at my garage as she handed me the binder. "You'll want to keep that door closed whenever possible," she said. "We like to maintain a uniform aesthetic around here." I laughed it off, assuming she was joking. But she wasn't. Over the next few months, I started noticing things. Small notes left on my door, reminders about community standards. One said, "Your grass is 2 inches over regulation height." Another said, "Your garbage can was visible from the street for 11 minutes after pickup." 11 minutes. I thought it was some kind of prank, but every time I brought it up at HOA meetings, Karen's cold smile told me otherwise. The real trouble started when I decided to build a small wooden shed in my backyard. Nothing fancy, just a place to store my tools, lawnmower, and boxes that didn't fit in my garage. I even checked the HOA rules twice. It clearly stated that storage structures under tanks 12 feet require no prior approval as long as they match house colors. I measured twice, built carefully, and painted it the same gray as my home. It looked perfect, or so I thought. 3 days later, I found Karen standing in my backyard. Not at the fence line, in my yard. She was snapping pictures with her phone like she was investigating a crime scene. I walked out trying to stay calm. "Karen, can I help you?" She didn't even look up. "You didn't file a request for this structure." I pointed to the binder she gave me. "It's under 10 by 12. "It's allowed," she smirked. "Not when it obstructs community sightlines." "What sightlines?" I asked, gesturing around. My backyard was surrounded by privacy fences. She shrugged. "Rules evolve. You'll be getting a notice soon." That notice turned into a full-blown violation letter. A formal warning claiming I'd breached community standards and had 2 weeks to remove the shed or face daily fines. I was furious. I filed an appeal, printed out the rules, even attached pictures of other neighbors with the same kind of sheds. But every time I sent something, it was lost in review or pending HOA board evaluation. Then one night, I caught Karen in my yard again. It was past 10 p.m. I'd heard footsteps, grabbed my flashlight, and there she was, crouched near the shed, holding a tape measure. When my light hit her face, she gasped and stumbled back. "You can't sneak around people's property," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She straightened up, trying to regain her composure. "I have authorization. You'll be fined for threatening an HOA official." I couldn't believe it. "Authorization? To trespass." She gave me that smug look again. "The HOA grants access when inspections are needed." I knew right then I had to protect myself. The next morning, I installed security cameras around the house. High definition, motion triggered, with cloud storage. I didn't tell anyone, but I made sure every corner was covered. The shed, the garage, the fence line. I even put up a "Smile, you're on camera" sign just to make it legal. 2 days later, I got another violation letter, this time claiming I'd altered exterior property without approval because of the cameras. That was when I realized this wasn't about rules anymore. Karen had made it personal. I tried to reason with her one last time. I called her, hoping we could settle it like adults. "Karen, what's the problem here?" "I followed every rule." Her tone was ice cold. "The problem is, you're challenging authority. We have a process for a reason." "Authority?" I repeated. "This is a neighborhood, not a monarchy." There was a pause, then a soft chuckle. "You'll learn," she said, and hung up. The following week, I received an envelope from the county clerk, a notice of intent to place a lien on my property. Apparently, the HOA had been quietly stacking daily fines, $50 a day, for 32 days, for unresolved structural violations. Over $1,600. That was the moment something in me snapped. I opened my laptop, downloaded every single clip from my cameras, and started reviewing the footage. What I found made my stomach twist. Karen hadn't just trespassed once or twice. She'd been coming onto my property regularly. Sometimes alone, sometimes with another board member, always measuring or taking photos. There was even one clip where she leaned close to my window and tried to peer inside my house. I burned it all to a flash drive and made copies. One for me, one for my lawyer, and one for the police. The next day, I filed a trespassing report. When the officer arrived, he was polite but hesitant. "You sure you want to go through with this? HOA disputes can get messy." I nodded. "She's been breaking the law. I have proof." He watched a few clips on my laptop, eyebrows raising. "Yeah," he said slowly. "That's not inspection. That's stalking." He took the report and promised to contact the HOA. That night, I received an email, not from Karen, but from the HOA vice president, a man named Mike. It was short and panicked. "We need to talk. Please don't press charges until we meet." That's when I knew the board was hiding something. The next evening, I met Mike at a small diner just outside the neighborhood. He looked nervous, glancing over his shoulder every few minutes as if someone might be watching us. I ordered a coffee. He didn't touch his. "Karen doesn't speak for the whole board," he started. "A lot of us are uncomfortable with how she handles things." I crossed my arms. "Uncomfortable enough to stop her?" He sighed. "You don't understand. She owns most of the votes. Half the board owes her favors. The rest are afraid of her." I stared at him. "Afraid of what?" "She's a homeowner, not a mob boss." He leaned closer. "You'd be surprised. She's connected. Her brother works for the property management company that oversees our HOA finances. They sign off on everything, fees, fines, even contracts for maintenance. If you go against her, suddenly your roof doesn't meet code or your mailbox needs replacement. She finds ways to make people pay." I felt the anger rising again. "She's been trespassing on my property, Mike. I have proof." "The police have it too." He froze, eyes wide. "You went to the police?" "Of course I did." He exhaled sharply, rubbing his forehead. "You just started a war. She's not going to take that quietly." But I was done being intimidated. "Then let her come. I'm not backing down." He didn't say much after that. Just warned me to be careful, paid for his untouched coffee, and left without another word. That night, I got home around 10 p.m. and noticed something strange. The motion sensor light above my garage was off. I checked the power, the wiring, everything looked fine. When I reviewed the security footage, I saw a shadow move near the garage door at 8:43 p.m., and then the light went out. Someone had cut the power line, my heart pounded. I checked every corner of the footage, and there she was again. Karen, wearing black this time, sneaking around the side of my house. She didn't even have her phone light on. It was deliberate. I called the police immediately, sent them the clip, and they came to file another report. The same officer as before showed up, shaking his head. "She really doesn't quit, does she?" "She thinks she's untouchable," I said. "He promised to escalate it, and I thought that would finally stop her." But 2 days later, I woke up to a letter taped to my front door. It was from the HOA, signed by Karen herself, announcing an emergency board meeting to discuss the community disruption caused by a hostile homeowner. They were turning it around on me. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday morning at the clubhouse. I decided to show up, cameras rolling, body mic on. When I arrived, half the neighborhood was already there. Karen stood at the front like a queen addressing her subjects, smiling politely as people whispered about the guy with the cameras. She started with her usual tone, calm, fake friendly. "As many of you know, one of our residents has been causing significant disturbances within our community." I raised my hand. "You mean me?" Her smile tightened. "Please don't interrupt. We're discussing a pattern of aggressive behavior, including false accusations against board members, illegal surveillance installations, and defamation of the HOA." People started murmuring. I let her go on for a minute before speaking up. Would you like to see what aggressive behavior looks like? I said, pulling out my tablet. I tapped play. The footage appeared on the projector screen. Karen sneaking into my yard, measuring, taking photos, peering through my windows. The room went dead silent. Her face turned white. This is edited!" she shouted. I shook my head. "The police have copies, time-stamped, cloud-verified," Mike spoke up from the back. "I saw those videos. They're real." Karen looked around, desperate for support, but no one met her eyes. "This is harassment!" she yelled, voice cracking. "You can't record private HOA inspections." I stepped closer. "Private? On my property? At night?" The tension in the room was suffocating. Finally, one of the older board members cleared his throat. "I move that we suspend the president pending investigation," Karen gasped, but no one came to her defense this time. The vote passed, 4-1. When it was over, I thought maybe, just maybe, things were finally settling. I went home, feeling that first flicker of peace I hadn't felt in months. But it didn't last. The next morning, I woke to police sirens outside my house, 2 squad cars, lights flashing. I ran outside, still half asleep. One of the officers approached me with a serious expression. "Are you Mr. Reynolds?" "Yes, what's going on?" "We received a report of stolen property. A riding mower matching the description of one recently purchased by your neighbor, Karen Lewis." I couldn't believe it. "You're kidding," he shook his head. "She claims you took it from her garage," I almost laughed. "I have my own mower. Check the serial number." They followed me to my backyard where my mower was parked in the shed. I pulled out the registration papers and dated a year earlier. The officer examined them carefully, then looked at me. "Do you have cameras in this area?" "Of course." I opened the app on my phone and showed him the footage. Karen, again, rolling a brand new mower out of her garage, then calling the police 5 minutes later. The officer sighed. "This is going on record. We'll file a report for false accusation, but that wasn't enough for me anymore. Karen wasn't just being petty. She was dangerous. She'd lied to law enforcement, broken into my property, and tried to destroy my reputation. I called my lawyer that same afternoon and told him to move forward with a restraining order and a civil harassment claim. The next few weeks were chaos. HOA meetings devolved into shouting matches. Some neighbors sided with me, furious that their dues had been used to defend Karen's vendettas. Others whispered that I was bringing too much attention to the neighborhood. The tension was thick enough to choke on. One night, I found an envelope slid under my door. No name, just shaky handwriting, "She's not done. Be careful." I didn't sleep that night. Every sound outside made me sit up. Every flicker of light made my stomach knot. Then, a week later, I woke to a loud crash outside. I ran to the window. Flames. My shed was on fire. I bolted outside, grabbed the hose, and started spraying while calling 911. The fire department came fast, thank God, but the shed was half gone before they put it out. When the smoke cleared, I noticed something shiny near the ashes, a broken piece of a phone case. I recognized the color instantly. Karen's phone had a metallic rose gold finish. I didn't say a word to anyone that night. I just uploaded all my footage, again, and sent it to both my lawyer and the police. I knew she'd finally crossed a line she couldn't step back from, but I also knew this wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The investigation started the very next morning. 2 detectives arrived at my door before sunrise, asking for everything I had. The video backups, the fire damage reports, even the screenshots of her previous harassment. One of them, Detective Carter, was the kind of man who had seen too much nonsense in his career and didn't waste words. He flipped through my folder of evidence like he was reading a grocery list. "She cut your security light, filed a false theft report, and now your shed caught fire," he said. "This isn't coincidence." I nodded, feeling both angry and tired. "You think she did it?" He looked up. "We'll find out soon enough." Within 48 hours, they had a search warrant. When they showed up at Karen's house, the entire cul-de-sac came out to watch. Curtains parted. Phones recorded. She stood on her porch in a robe, shouting that she was being targeted. The detectives went through her garage, her car, and finally, her backyard. When they came out, Carter was holding something in an evidence bag, a small plastic gas can, half full, and what looked like a melted phone case, I knew it the moment I saw it. She screamed the whole time they cuffed her, yelling that it was all a setup. The same neighbors she'd spent years terrorizing didn't say a word in her defense. Some even clapped when the squad car drove away. The news spread fast. By that afternoon, local media were running the headline, HOA president arrested for arson and harassment. Her mugshot was everywhere. The comment section on the town website was brutal. Dozens of people from other HOAs sharing their own Karen stories. For the first time in months, I could breathe. But legal battles are never simple. Her attorney tried every tactic, claiming mental health stress, medication side effects, even suggesting I had framed her to get out of HOA fines. It might have worked too if not for the mountain of evidence. Every clip, every screenshot, every email. It all painted the same picture. A woman who thought she was above consequences. During the preliminary hearing, she avoided looking at me. Her once perfect posture was gone. Her hands shook as the prosecutor described how she'd used her position to harass residents, misuse funds, and retaliate against anyone who questioned her. The fire department report sealed it. Traces of gasoline matching her container were found at the scene. The HOA board scrambled to distance themselves. The management company fired her brother, dissolved their contract, and issued a public apology. Neighbors began stopping by my house, some to apologize for doubting me, others to thank me for standing up when no one else would. I didn't feel like a hero, just someone who was tired of being pushed around. Months passed before the trial began. The courtroom was full every day, reporters, neighbors, even people from other communities following the case. Karen's defense tried one last card. They claimed she'd suffered a psychological break due to unfair treatment and community hostility. The jury didn't buy it. Not after seeing the videos of her sneaking onto my property at night. When the verdict came in, guilty on all counts, I didn't cheer. I just sat there staring at the floor, feeling something heavy lift off my shoulders. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison, restitution for damages, and barred from serving on any homeowners association board again. Outside the courthouse, the cameras were waiting. A reporter asked me, "What message would you give to others facing HOA abuse?" I thought about it for a moment. "Document everything," I said. "And don't let fear silence you. Truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be seen." That quote made the evening news. For a while, it felt strange seeing my own face on television. But if it made one other person stand up to injustice, it was worth it. After the sentencing, the HOA held a special election. Mike was elected president unanimously. The first thing he did was open every financial record for public review. Turns out Karen had been funneling HOA money to bogus consulting fees, over $40,000 stolen across 3 years. Every homeowner got a partial refund on their dues that spring. The neighborhood slowly started to heal. The tension that once hung over our streets dissolved into normal suburban life. Kids playing outside, barbecues on weekends, neighbors waving again. My garage, the same place where this nightmare began, became a small symbol of victory. People would stop by to talk, to ask advice on dealing with their own HOA troubles, or just to share a drink. The charred remains of the old shed were replaced with a new one, stronger and better built. I left one scorched beam standing, though, a reminder of what happens when power goes unchecked. Months later, I got a letter from Karen. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. The handwriting was neat, shaky. I lost everything because of one mistake. "I hope you can forgive me someday." I didn't reply. Some things don't deserve answers. Life went on. I started volunteering to help other communities audit their HOAs. Quietly, no cameras, no headlines. Just helping people understand how to protect themselves. Every time I saw a family smile because their problem got solved without fear, it felt like closing another chapter of my own story. A year later, Mike hosted the first official neighborhood picnic since the incident. Over 50 families showed up. Kids ran through sprinklers, grills smoked with burgers and ribs, laughter echoed down streets that used to feel hostile. As the sun set, I stood by my driveway, watching everyone gather, thinking how close we'd come to losing this. Sarah, A neighbor who'd supported me since day one walked up holding 2 glasses of lemonade. "You did it, you know," she said. I smiled. We did it. When I looked around, I realized something simple but profound. Community isn't built on rules or power. It's built on people who refuse to let fear win. That night, I sat in my garage, the Camaro's engine humming softly, lights from nearby porches glowing through the window. I recorded one last video, not for evidence this time, but for closure. To everyone who's ever felt powerless, I said into the camera, remember this: bullies only win when good people stay silent. Stand your ground, tell the truth, and never underestimate what your community can do when it stands together. I uploaded it and shut off the camera. No more conflict, no more waiting for the next blow, just peace. Outside, crickets chirped, someone's dog barked in the distance, and for the first time in years, the neighborhood felt like home again.